I am sure you've heard of Mario at least once in your life. With every single Nintendo console, you're guaranteed to get a few Mario games, some of which are looked at as the best games ever made, and others are really not that great. So today we're taking a trip down memory lane and looking at some of the best and some of the worst Mario games of all time, starting off with Mario Sports. Now, I'm a sucker for a good Mario sports game, and there are a lot to choose from. You can name pretty much any sport ever created, and Mario has probably played it. But I think the best overall Mario sports game is Mario Superstar Baseball. Nintendo was on an absolute hot streak with all of the GameCube Mario sports games, but I think this is the best that Mario Sports has ever gotten. Mario Power Tennis and Mario Strikers are both incredible games, but there is just something about the arcade-style baseball games that works incredibly well here. Now, you could be thinking I'm just biased because I like baseball, but to that I say,
does it look like I play sports?
Mario Superstar Baseball has everything I look for in a Mario sports game. I was able to pick this up as a kid and play it really easily and have a great time. The main game mode and the bread and butter of this game was Exhibition. You pick one of 12 different Mario characters to be your captain, and then you can build the rest of your team with a huge selection of characters from the Mario universe, with awesome choices like Toadsworth, Dixie Kong, and Petey Piranha all being choosable, which is a huge part of what makes this game so special. Most of the Mario sports games have a pretty good roster, but I think Mario Baseball does it the best solely because you need so many characters to play the game. And I'm sure they could have added way more variety like they did in Super Sluggers, but what we had here was perfect for the first Mario Baseball game. Even though it does keep me up at night sometimes thinking about how Goomba and Paragoomba are able to use a baseball bat, it makes me really uncomfortable but also really curious at the same time. And it doesn't matter who you pick, you can just pick all of your favorite characters and have a great time. But if you want to get really deep, you can by leaning into the characters' chemistry.
Oh, I love science!
Certain characters like Mario and Luigi are going to have a very high chemistry rating, where other characters like Luigi and King Boo are going to have really bad chemistry. And there's benefits to having a team with really good chemistry. If you're throwing a ball to a teammate who has good chemistry, the ball will fly faster than someone who doesn't. And it's the subtle details like that that made Mario Sports during this era absolutely incredible. To this day, Mario Superstar Baseball is played to a very high competitive level. There's enough intricate mechanics and details that make it so if you want to put the time in and get really good at this game, you can. It's not just based on luck. There are ways to practice and improve on this game, so if you're willing to put the time in, you can be better than your friends 100% of the time. But when people talk about Mario Superstar Baseball, they never discuss the mini games. If Nintendo ever decides to read my strongly worded letters and they make a new Mario Baseball game, and it doesn't include a bunch of different mini games like these, I'm going to go play in traffic. Honestly, I think Superstar Baseball has the best mini games in Mario sports history. And even if you don't want to play the exhibition match or the mini games, then you can play challenge mode and have a great time. The challenge mode is essentially a story mode where you pick one of 5 captains and beat the remaining 4 captains in a baseball gauntlet. It's easily up there with one of the best single player modes in a Mario sports game, because even to this day I will still go back and replay it all the time. So if I had to pick one Mario sports game to recommend, it would 100% be this. But that's not to say games like Mario Strikers, Mario Tennis, and Mario Golf are bad. I just think this has the most replayability and honestly is the most fun. But the worst Mario sports game is easily Mario Tennis Ultra Smash. Overall, I really like Mario Tennis. In fact, Mario Power Tennis is one of the best Mario sports games ever made. And with the Wii not getting its own Mario Tennis game when Ultra Smash was announced and released, I was really excited for it to be a great game.
How is this so bad?
Somehow Mario Tennis Ultra Smash is worse than the Mario Tennis game that released for the Virtual Boy, because at least that game made me feel something. Granted, that something was eye pain, but it was better than this. Now, tennis has never been the most engaging sport of all time, but when you add motion controls to it, it ends up being a pretty solid time. Mario Power Tennis and Wii Sports both had an incredibly engaging tennis mode. Adding motion controls to tennis just makes sense. So when I bought Mario Tennis Ultra Smash, I assumed there was going to be a way to play with motion controls, but apparently I was dumb and wrong for that. There are 5 separate game modes to play in this, and all of them are decent. You have your classic tennis game mode, where you just play tennis.
Wow, really flexing those creative muscles.
You have Mega Battle mode, which is essentially just classic tennis, but sometimes Toad will throw you a Mega Mushroom, which makes you grow really big. And this is almost halfway to being a good idea. Growing really big works pretty well, and I thought it would be a good gimmick if there was anything else to it. But the Mega Mushrooms literally just make you really big. big. It's gotten to the point where every time I see a Mega Mushroom in this game, I just want to turn it off. And it really stinks because Mario Tennis is generally a very fun, infinitely replayable, and accessible game that anyone can pick up and play easily, and while this still is that, it's missing the most important thing a video game can be, and that's be fun. It's fine because there's still 2 more game modes to look at.
Too bad, they all stink.
You have your Knockout Challenge, which is essentially just the tournament mode from the earlier Mario Tennis games, but this time it's just a bunch of mega battles. You can have an amiibo partner, which is kind of cool if you collect amiibos, but the one thing I still don't understand is why someone would play this over just playing a mega battle. I guess if I had 17 hours to kill and I wanted myself to not have fun the entire time, I would do that, but I currently have things to do other than suffer. And honestly, the best part about this game was the Mega Ball Rally, the only minigame they had for this Mario sports game. Mega Ball Rally is a very simple minigame where you hit a ball back and forth, and every 30 rallies the ball gets smaller. I'm not sure if it's because the rest of the game is just terrible, but this was honestly kind of fun. But this game's biggest offense is that it was just really disappointing. It had so much potential to be a great game. The graphics in this game were absolutely stunning. The simple tennis gameplay worked really well, and it had a roster of 16 playable characters, which honestly was pretty great, but it lacked any content to want to keep me coming back to this, and it cost $50 when it came out, which granted isn't $60, but it's still $40 too much. All they had to do was add more minigames, game modes, and courts, and they would have had a great Mario Tennis game, but as it is, it's definitely the worst Mario sports game ever made. But with recent Mario sports games being somewhat okay, hopefully Nintendo gets the message that we not only want a new Mario baseball game, we also want the game to have content.
Alright, now you're asking too much.
I could just be living in an echo chamber, but I do think that Mario Party is one of the best Mario series of all time. They took the idea of a board game and made it better in almost every way. It's simple, fun, and infinitely replayable, and the best example of this is Mario Party 6. The GameCube had 4 separate Mario Party games, and honestly, all of them are really good. But when they made Mario Party 6, Nintendo did something perfect by adding a gimmick that enhanced the game without changing all that much about it, and that was the boards having a day and night cycle. At the beginning of each game, it would start at daytime, and after 3 turns, it would switch to night. And each board had different things happen depending on what time of day it is. Sometimes it would change the path on the board, sometimes it would change the cost of items, but regardless of what it changed on the board, it added enough that made this game feel really different than every other Mario Party we've ever had, all while retaining the same gameplay loop that Mario Party's known for. It wasn't the first Mario Party board to introduce this concept, but it was definitely the one that did it the best. The boards in this game are all absolutely beautiful, with iconic stages like Castaway Bay, Fair Square, and Snowflake Lake. There were 82 separate minigames that were all incredible, with a bunch of brand new microphone minigames which honestly I didn't love, but luckily they were made optional because I didn't have to play them if I didn't want to. They kept the orb mechanic from Mario Party 5, which just made sense, with some orbs giving you buffs like the ability to roll 2 or 3 dice blocks, or with others giving you the ability to ride on a bullet bill and run someone down, or red trap orbs that make it so other players regret playing this game to begin with. And having a selection of 11 playable characters, including the legendary Koopa Kid, who at this point has become folklore in Mario history, but I will personally never forget him. And there was also a pretty decent single player mode which allowed you to play a modified version of the Mario Party game, where you play against 3 versions of Koopa Kid, and even though it's pretty much just the regular Mario Party experience with a few different tweaks, it was nice they tried to give us some sort of option for single player. But when you put everything together, you get a truly special Mario Party experience that we haven't really gotten recently. Luckily, Mario Party has slowly been redeeming itself with games like Mario Party Jamboree being absolutely incredible, but there was something so special about the GameCube era of Mario Party that made it absolutely phenomenal. And Mario Party 6 was the best of the best. But the worst Mario Party to me is Super Mario Party. Now I will say there are other Mario Party games that came out for the 3DS or the Game Boy Advance that were not great, but I honestly consider them to be something different entirely. Where Super Mario Party was supposed to be a return to form for the series, and it really was anything but. And this actually feels like a Mario Party game, but in the worst possible way. Starting with Mario Party 9 on the Wii, Mario Party went through a kind of angsty teen phase where it didn't want to be what it was known for anymore. They did things like add the cart mechanic and then get rid of the cart mechanic, and they made a couple spin-offs for the 3DS, which were all just kind of terrible. But when the Switch came along and they announced a new Mario Party at E3 2018, and it looked just like the old school Mario parties from the N64 and the GameCube, a lot of Mario Party fans, including myself, all had a collective sigh of relief, hoping that the game series was finally taking steps to go back to what it used to be. And then the game came out and I bought it.
Oh, I'm gonna vomit.
On the surface, this game looks and plays a lot like the original Mario Party games. You pick your character, roll your dice block to determine what order you're gonna go in, and play the game. Which honestly is all great. I would rather have this than riding on a cart pretty much any day of the week. But this time, the traditional dice block only rolls from 1 to 6, which honestly is disappointing, but I could get past that if it was the only change. But they also gave every character a unique dice block that they could roll instead, which each had a different effect depending on who you're playing. And some were honestly a lot better than others. I understand to a certain extent why they would do this, because they wanted to add a certain level of variety and strategy to the game. But if you're like me and you want to play Monty Mole and his dice block is terrible, then all you can do is cry yourself to sleep at night or hope you get lucky during the game. The thing this game did the best was have a good selection of minigames, all of which were really fun. The problem is, getting to those minigames was like pulling teeth. It's honestly really hard to get to the minigame portion of the game without getting frustrated and turning this game off. They also had a good selection of 20 playable characters, and honestly I think that was nice. With some more obscure characters from the Mario franchise being added here, and even though it's kind of ruined by a lot of these characters having terrible dice blocks, if you don't care about that, then this is an incredible selection of characters. But the biggest crime this game has is only having 4 boards. Each board has 2 different forms depending on what game mode you're playing, but it's still the exact same board. There must have been a shortage of boards available because they could have pulled boards from other Mario Party games to put in here as a carbon copy, but they just didn't. And honestly, none of these boards are really that good. As far as the Mario Party series goes, this is definitely the most disappointing. There are a bunch of other Mario Party games like Mario Party 9, Mario Party 10, and anything released for the 3DS that were all also really bad because they changed far too much about the game. But they tried to market this as the Mario Party that was gonna bring the series back to its roots for the first time since Mario Party DS. But not only did they fail at doing that, they also failed at making the game fun. Besides the minigames, but again, it's hard to get there. But another series that Mario is known for that is extremely popular is Mario Kart. Almost every Mario Kart game is really fun, but honestly, if I had to say there was a best Mario Kart game, it would probably be Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I can't say that any of the Mario Kart games are all that bad, but Mario Kart 8 Deluxe combines everything that's great about the series and then adds onto it. When the original Mario Kart 8 came out, it was already an incredible game. It was the best-selling game on the Wii U by a pretty large margin. So when the Switch rolled around, everyone kind of assumed we were gonna get a new Mario Kart for the console, but they ended up just making a deluxe version of Mario Kart 8, and honestly, I was fine with that. It's not like they ported the game over and didn't add anything. They added a good amount of stuff to make this the premier way to play this game. Everything added in the DLCs for Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U was added to this game in the box, which immediately made this one of the biggest Mario Kart games we've ever had. There was some gameplay changes like adding 200cc, bringing back double item blocks for the first time since Mario Kart Double Dash, and adding a new level of turbo boost that made the game feel more crisp. The game controls far better than any Mario Kart in history, and it added new features like smart steering and auto accelerate to make it so anybody can pick up this game and play it extremely easily. Probably the most substantial change from the original version to Deluxe was the inclusion of Battle Mode, which for some reason they neglected to add to the original Mario Kart 8, but I'll give them a pass because they ended up righting their wrong. There were 5 different battle modes, all of which being incredible, and honestly, right out of the box, this game had enough content to last the entirety of the Switch's life cycle and then some. But then Nintendo did the unthinkable, and instead of announcing a Mario Kart 9, they announced an additional wave of DLC called the Mario Kart 8 Booster Pass. For the low price of $25, you were able to purchase the Mario Kart 8 Booster Pass, which doubled the amount of tracks in the game, added 8 new characters, and overall made this the largest Mario Kart game we've ever had. Now, some of the stages were imported from Mario Kart Tour, which honestly were hit or miss, but a lot of the new stages and ported stages were absolutely incredible. And one of the best parts about this is that if you have the Nintendo Switch Online Expansion Pack bundle, this was given to you for free. The DLC was released in waves, so every few months there would be more stuff to check out in this game, and on its own, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe would have been enough to be the best Mario Kart game, but the DLC expansion really solidified Mario Kart 8's place as the biggest and best Mario Kart we've ever gotten. The sheer amount of unlockables in this game is absolutely insane and is enough to keep anyone playing for a very long time. And it's no wonder why Mario Kart 8 was not only the best-selling game on the Wii U, but also the best-selling game on the Switch. I'm a big fan of Mario Kart Wii and Mario Kart Double Dash, but Mario Kart 8 has so much content, is so accessible and easy to play, and honestly is so much fun, that it's hard to say if there's a better Mario Kart game available for anyone to play. Sure, my favorite game will always be Mario Kart Wii, but Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is definitely the best. But the worst is absolutely Mario Kart Tour. For those of you who have never heard of Mario Kart Tour, consider yourself lucky. The game itself is honestly fine. It's a free-to-play mobile app that was released for iOS and Android devices that brought Mario Kart to phones across the world.
Hey, that actually sounds pretty good.
And honestly, I think this would be great if it wasn't a freemium game.
There it is. That's why we can't have nice things.
The big disclaimer I have is that you are not required by any means to spend any amount of money to play this game. It's not like some freemium games where you'll get banned from playing until a certain amount of time has passed, or you have to buy or earn credits in order to play the game. The problem I have is that in order to earn anything cool, you pretty much have to put 100 hours into this game or spend money. And honestly, I would be fine if these were cosmetic only changes. If they were skins for characters that had no effect on the gameplay, then I wouldn't care at all. The problem is that certain characters are going to have benefits depending on the stage you're playing on. It's not the most impactful change of all time, but it's still a thing and I don't like the gacha mechanics. There are so many things they try and sell you during this game, like the gold pass or the rubies. It honestly makes it really hard to pick up and play this game without getting frustrated. And the fact that they shove it down your throat that you could be spending money to play better is honestly really disheartening. Now, there are a lot of games that are much more egregiously monetized, but I personally would rather pay for a game like Super Mario Run and have it and be able to play it whenever I want than to get this game for free but have it try and sell me something every time I try and play. I will say though that gameplay wise, this game is really fun. Though you're playing on a phone, the game does not feel all that bad. I wish there was an easier way to play this with a controller, but as far as I know, that's still not the case. But overall, I think that Mario Kart Tour is a really good app, but as far as Mario Kart games go, it's the worst they've made. And it stinks because there's so much they added to Mario Kart Tour that I would love to see in a traditional Mario Kart game, like all of these cool variants of Mario Kart characters, but it's getting to the point where I'm not sure if we're gonna get that. Mario RPGs are the perfect example of how this Italian plumber can pretty much fit anywhere.
I like Mario so much, I grew a mustache.
And the best Mario RPG is currently Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door.
Get him!
Now, I'm a big fan of the Mario and Luigi games, and I think that Bowser's Inside Story is a nearly perfect game. But I would give that game the same score I give Thousand Year Door, and they just remade this game for the Switch. Mario RPGs have consistently been some of my favorite RPGs of all time. And whether it's that they're extremely easy and accessible, or the fact that they are full of humor and great worlds, they are my guilty pleasure. And the Thousand Year Door does pretty much everything perfectly. The gameplay is extremely simple, but so much fun. It has the classic RPG gameplay of picking whatever attack or item you're going to use, but adds the element of real-time button presses to keep you more engaged the entire time you play. Doing something as simple as jumping on an enemy keeps you entirely connected to the game throughout the entire process. Being a Paper Mario game, there's a lot of ways to interact with this world while being made out of paper, like turning into a paper airplane to reach other sections, or having Mario roll up into a tube to get into tight areas, which all would seem really weird and out of place in any other Mario game but work incredibly well here. The characters you meet along the way are all incredible, from NPCs in the villages to your party members that you unlock by playing the game, with iconic characters like Goombella, Koops, and the Yoshi that you get to name. But what makes Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door truly special to me is that the game is truly 100% fun. It doesn't take itself too seriously being an RPG, but still manages to have an incredible story that is funny and charming. It has some of the most interesting character designs to ever be included in a Mario game, and a gameplay loop that keeps me coming back year after year. If you haven't checked out Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door and you're a fan of RPGs, I 100% think this is the best one to check out, not only because it's incredible, but it's also available on the Switch. But even though The Thousand Year Door is the best RPG, another Paper Mario game is the worst RPG, and that is Paper Mario Sticker Star. After Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, the entire series struggled to figure out what it was going to be. Super Paper Mario was not really an RPG, even though it was still a good time, but this is barely even a game. I consider this more to be a form of torture than anything else.
Give me the launch codes or else I will never talk.
You asked for this.
Fine, I yield.
Paper Mario Sticker Star was the first Paper Mario game to be released on a mobile console. And I'll give credit where credit's due, that was an incredible idea. Sure, we already had the Mario and Luigi games, but it was different enough where it would scratch a different itch. But then Sticker Star actually released, and it was terrible. Pretty much everything you do in this game requires you to have some form of sticker. Whether it's solving puzzles or using them in battles, it is a major point in the game that you need to have a huge collection of stickers in order to do anything. And honestly, I hope whoever had that idea has wet socks for the rest of their life, because it is just not fun. It's a Paper Mario game, so it still has all of the humor and interesting worlds to explore. The problem is exploring them is just not fun. Everything you do in this game feels more like a chore than anything else. It's a Paper Mario game, so none of the stories are going to win any prizes, but this is definitely the weakest in the series in my opinion, with Bowser accidentally destroying the sticker comet, which turns the comet into 6 royal stickers that scatter across the land, and it's Mario's job to figure that one out. Compared to the other Paper Mario games, the story and characters feel lifeless. The world you explore is fine, but compared to the other Paper Mario games, there's just not a lot to do. And even when there is a lot to do, it involves stickers, which makes me want to rip my hair out. And I understand what they were going for with the gameplay, but the over-reliance on stickers being used for literally everything made this feel more like an inventory management game rather than a good RPG. I'm glad they brought Paper Mario back into being an RPG with this, but all they had to do was keep the story and themes from Super Paper Mario and just add some RPG mechanics to it, and they would have had an absolute masterpiece. But for some reason they decided that stickers were the best possible option, but they made not only the worst Paper Mario game, but somehow the worst RPG that Nintendo has ever made. But now we're getting into the big boys, and we're gonna talk about 2D Mario games. 2D platformers is what Mario is known for, and honestly I think the best of the best is Super Mario World. Now I was torn between putting this and putting Super Mario Wonder here, but I ended up going with Super Mario World because this game has something that Super Mario Wonder doesn't, and that is a healthy level of challenge. It's not the hardest game ever made, but it doesn't hold your hand like a lot of the modern Mario games do. But Super Mario World was not afraid to let you mess around and find out. But at no point is this game punishing to the point where it's not fun. Mario World had a sense of adventure that none of the other Mario games really did. In Super Mario Bros. 3, we were given the map mechanic, which allowed you to see an overworld and select the level that you wanted to play on it. And they kept that same theme for Super Mario World, but this time made it one large interconnected world that you had to explore through. Each area that you go to is a little bit different, and honestly, every time I play it, I remember how great this game really is. It took what was great about games like Super Mario Bros. And Super Mario Bros. 3 and added onto it by making one of the tightest platformers of all time. There was the perfect amount of variety in power-ups with not having too little but not having too many, with iconic power-ups like the Super Mushroom and Fire Flower returning, and brand new ones like the Cape Feather being some of the most iconic power-ups in Mario's history. It has one of my favorite Mario soundtracks of all time. Even though it's simple, it still has such a nostalgic ring to it. And this game introduced the fan favorite character Yoshi for the first time, where Yoshi serves as a little green rideable power-up for you to use, who helps you eat what's ever in your path, but also serves as a perfect sacrificial lamb in order to get a little bit more vertical height on your jumps. 2D Mario games have always been known to be some of the most iconic video games ever made, and Super Mario World is often talked about as the best of the best. And honestly, after replaying it recently, I can't disagree. It was simple enough to be enjoyed by anyone, innovative enough to change the way we play games to this day, and it had the perfect level of challenge to keep even myself in the modern day happy. I'm all for a challenge, and Super Mario World did it perfectly. But Super Mario The Lost Levels is the worst game because it is annoyingly difficult. Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels was Super Mario Bros. 2 in Japan, but after releasing it, Nintendo quickly realized they didn't want to make a game that put me in an early coffin.
My heart! Oh God! Oh!
The Lost Levels uses a slightly modified version of the Super Mario Bros. Engine, and they made a bunch of game design decisions to make this game more difficult than the original, and I think they had the secret sub-goal of trying to make me go bald at an alarming rate. Because this game is stupidly difficult. For some reason, they just decided to make everything that was great about the original Mario 20 times harder, and made gameplay changes that just don't really make sense to me. Like now, if you jump on a Koopa Troopa, it will just hide in its shell, and it runs faster than it did before. And considering it only takes 1 to 2 hits and you have to restart the level from scratch, I will admit that I have broken more than one controller playing this game. Whoever made half of these game design decisions deserves to be jailed for at least a decade, because pretty much every single decision in this game was used to go for blood. There are now poison mushrooms that will just kill you, there are gusts of wind that make it really difficult to platform, and there are hidden blocks in areas that are just extremely annoying. I am all for a challenge, and I am very proud of myself for beating this game. However, I don't think I will ever willingly play it again because this game definitely took 7 years off my expected lifespan. I can't think of a single person who has ever said that The Lost Levels is their favorite 2D Mario game, because there is a reason they originally decided not to release this to Western audiences. The modern day Mario is known as a family-friendly figure, with games that are accessible for pretty much anyone, and this is the exact opposite of that. I recommend beating this game once just to say you've done it, but if you're not a fan of chest pain and challenges, then you should avoid this game like the bubonic plague. And last but certainly not least, we have the 3D Mario games. I would like to go on record and say I don't think there is a bad 3D Mario game. All of them are at least an 8 out of 10 to me, even if they all have their issues. But if I had to pick a best 3D Mario game, it would be Mario Odyssey.
Get it! Oh wait, what's going on? Oh, do you want a turn?
Super Mario Odyssey is the most unique 3D Mario game we've ever gotten. One thing that Mario as a series does incredibly well is be extremely flexible. Adding a new mechanic to a Mario game usually works incredibly well. And this game is no exception to that, with the capture mechanic being one of the most unique things I've ever seen in a video game. Mario's hat is possessed by a little ghost named Cappy, who makes a deal with Mario to help him on his journey because Bowser stole his sister. This gives Mario the ability to capture and possess random creatures throughout the Mushroom Kingdom to aid in his journey. And this creates one of the most engaging gameplay loops in a Mario game ever. Most of the creatures you run into along your journey you can capture and use, including but not limited to Goombas, Chain Chomps, and even a Tyrannosaurus Rex. These captures make navigating the world so much easier and more engaging because you never know what you can capture and how it will help you along the way. And all of the worlds you explore are absolutely incredible. The first major world you explore in this game is the Cascade Kingdom, and I'm pretty sure the first time I saw this, I soiled my linens. Every kingdom you explore in this game has something unique to it. And with having so many moons in this game, it makes exploring every nook and cranny of this world even more fun. There are 880 unique moons to collect while playing this game, which blows any other 3D Mario game out of the water. And though a lot of them are in really dumb locations like sitting on a stump, finding some of the others might make you lose sleep at night like it did for me. If you haven't played Super Mario Odyssey yet, you are doing yourself a disservice because it's one of the most refreshing Mario games ever made. I'm sure we've all thought to ourselves, what would it be like to be a Bullet Bill before? And this game gives you the ability to do just that. The gameplay is as crisp and responsive as ever, with some of the best controls in a Mario game period, and though it's not the one I would look back and say this is my favorite, I would say it was the best. And honestly, there isn't really a worst 3D Mario game, but if I had to pick one, it would be Super Mario Sunshine. Super Mario Sunshine is one of the best Mario games, but as far as 3D Mario games go, it's probably the worst, just because it had a bunch of game design issues that make it not fun to play at certain points in the game. The camera is this game's biggest enemy by far. There are a lot of sections in this game where you'll need to make a very precise jump or look and angle the camera in a certain way, and it will just not cooperate, because the camera in this game is just really, really bad. I think Delfino Plaza is one of, if not the best hub worlds in all of Mario history. For some reason, the early 2000s was full of beaches in games. I can only assume that's because all of these game developers wanted to show that they could make water look somewhat realistic, but Delfino Plaza does it to a degree that I think is disrespectful to the rest. The entirety of the hub world is glowing with charm and personality, and I absolutely love spending time and just walking around and seeing the sights. However, a large portion of this game involves the main gimmick, which is Flood. Flood is one of the coolest ideas they've ever had in a Mario game. It's essentially Mario with a water-powered jetpack, and that is an awesome idea. However, it really doesn't work as well as you might want it to. Hovering and jetting around really feels janky. And when you combine that with the camera issues, it ironically feels not very fluid. Again, I think Mario Sunshine is an incredible game. I have no problems with it, just of the 3D Mario games, I think it's the worst. And the last main reason for that is because it is not available practically anywhere. The only way to get this game was to either buy it on the GameCube when it was available, or to get the 3D All-Stars collection when that was available. And considering neither of those games are being printed anymore, if you didn't get it at either of those releases, you just can't really play it. Again, I don't dislike Super Mario Sunshine at all, but of the 3D Mario games, I think it's the worst. But what do you think the best and worst Mario games of each category are? Let me know in the comments, and as always, thank you for watching. I hope that you and your family have an incredible rest of your day, and if you like anything that you saw here, please consider subscribing.